Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I will be talking about two movies that I recently went to go see. The first one is I, Tonya, and the second one is Molly's Game. The reason why I want to do this film is because they're very similar and a lot of people had recommended for me to go watch both of them. And so I'll talk a little bit about their summaries and my review for both movies and finally which movie I actually liked better. But anyways, let's just jump right in. So originally when I first heard about these two movies, I actually didn't really want to watch either of them. The trailer looked vaguely not that interesting, to be honest, and it wasn't until a lot of people started talking about it and talking about how amazing the both of the movies were that I decided, you know what, I have Movie Pass, let me just go check it out, which is exactly what I did. And now that I've watched it, they're both very similar, I do agree. They're both about female ex-athletes. I, Tonya talks about a figure skater, and Molly's Game discusses an ex-skier. They're also both very headstrong and tenacious in their personalities, so honestly the two main characters for both films were very similar in terms of their personality. And both movies revolved around controversies, which actually makes sense, otherwise I don't think these movies would have been made. I, Tonya discussed about an assault that occurred back in 1994, and Molly's Game discussed about an illegal poker game. And both movies were actually based on true events, which actually after watching the movies I actually went back to see how accurate they were. Honestly, I think they were fairly accurate for the most part. But anyways, moving on to the summaries of the movies, since actually I will go into a little bit contrast during the summaries. So for I, Tonya, it basically just follows the life of Tonya Harding, and according to Wikipedia, she's a 1991 US champion and a 1991 world champion silver medalist. She's also a two-time Olympian and a two-time Skate America champion. So like I said before, the movie really goes into detail about her 1994 controversy with a fellow figure skater called Nancy Kerrigan, and it discusses about what really went down. And the way how the movie was portrayed is that it actually went into detail about her childhood and how she even got to figure skating in the first place. And then it also talks about how she later became the first woman to ever land 2 triple axel jumps in a single competition, as well as the first one to ever land one in a short program. It just goes from the beginning of her fame to the peak of her fame, and then finally when it all comes crashing down with the 1994 incidents. So that's essentially what the movie is about. And honestly, going into my summary now, I didn't like it. I mean, it wasn't terrible, but I didn't really enjoy it as much as I thought I would. And mainly because the way how the movie was filmed too actually was that it reminded me of The Office, where they have the characters in front of the TV, kind of like how I'm doing this right now, and just discussing about events and their thoughts about a particular situation. And I don't know if that kind of filming for me works well in a movie. That might work well in a TV show, which is why The Office is such a huge success. But for me, I don't know, I never really liked that kind of filming, and it made it seem very autobiographical. Yeah. And a lot of people I talked to after watching the movie, like my close family and friends, they didn't really like it either. So I don't really know. And honestly, for my two sisters who actually were figure skaters, they were competitive figure skaters, and they were actually one of the main reasons why I went to watch this movie as well. They didn't really like it either. So I don't really know. I also couldn't really take the characters too seriously. A lot of times I felt that their response to a certain situation was very exaggerated, which is why, I don't know, I just couldn't take them too seriously. But one thing I do commend her for is that despite her abuse from her mother, her abuse from her ex-boyfriend slash ex-husband, she still managed to work her ass off and accomplish all of these amazing accomplishments, which honestly is quite commendable. So I definitely respect her and admire her for that at the end of the day. But the movie itself, I don't know. I honestly expect to be better, and the 2 hours felt very, very long to me. At the end, I was just thinking, alright, is it done yet? But I mean, I'm still glad I went to go watch it. I did find it very informative, especially the fact that I never knew about Tonya Harding in the beginning, nor did I know about the 1994 incident. So watching the movie definitely gave me some perspective about the past and made me learn different things. So even though the movie definitely was not at the top of my list, I still enjoyed it overall and would still recommend it for everyone who's interested, especially learning more about Tonya Harding and learning more about figure skating. So moving on to Molly's Game. The movie is actually based off the true story of Molly Bloom, who ran the world's most exclusive high-stakes poker game both in LA and New York City for almost about 10 years and then was arrested by the FBI. She was arrested for money laundering, running an illegal gambling operation, as well as being involved with the Russian mob. And then the movie just goes into detail about her child life and how her original dream actually was to become an Olympic skier and how that came crashing down, and then how she got involved with poker games in the beginning, and then finally how everything just came crashing down. So that's essentially what the movie is about. Going to my review now. I love this movie. Actually, right after the movie ended, I called up my sister, raved to her about the movie, told her how much I loved it and how she had to go see it ASAP. So, love this movie, definitely recommend it. And even though some of this film wasn't true, I actually, after this movie was done, I went to research, and it turns out that Idris Elba's character, the lawyer, was completely fictional. Some parts of it is based off her real life lawyer, but she had hired many lawyers apparently, and his actual standalone character was completely fictional for the most part. And the Russian mob in the movie was much more exaggerated. She wasn't that involved with the Russian mobs apparently. Her involvement basically just included having them as some of her customers in her poker games. And the main reason why I actually love this movie so much is because of Molly. I found her character incredibly smart and intelligent and just quick in terms of thinking. Like, she's definitely someone I admire. And the way how the film portrayed her ability to pick up the poker lingo and just listening to people talk about various topics and being able to discuss it herself, and then like calculating all the monies going in and out. I mean, you have to think about this as well. These are, in the beginning, the stakes were like 10,000 and it moved up to 250,000 at the end. These are large digits going on right now. So a lot of the money going in and out were billions of dollars, and the fact that she was able to calculate all that, I mean, she was using a spreadsheet, but she still had to calculate it and make sure it's accurate and precise because, you know, like running this type of business, you have to make sure everything is accurate. So the fact of all that, I just found that like she was just so intelligent to be able to operate that by herself. I also respect her for the fact that she was able to keep it legal for so long. I mean, like I said, a lot of these money amounts were ridiculously high, and the fact that she was able to keep it legal, not take a percentage of the pot, and just basically be the bank, because a lot of these people who were, you know, losing a lot, they were losing a lot of money. So she had to end up writing all these checks for them because they couldn't pay up. So with all these money, like ridiculously large digits going up, and she was writing the amounts for it, she obviously had to do something about it. And even though being illegal is not the best solution, but I can't exactly fault her for trying to think of something. I'm just more surprised that it took her this long to make that final decision. And if there was one thing that I didn't really like too much about the movie, was actually the portrayal between her father and herself. Their relationship was always rocky from the beginning, from childhood. And at that point, by the time she got older and at this stage, I don't think they were talking at all anymore. Her parents were divorced, and suddenly at the end of the movie, the last like 15 minutes, he shows up, goes into therapist mode, and just tells her exactly the reason as to why she made all this decision and how she got into it, etc. And honestly, it just sounds a lot like mansplaining to me, and it just didn't sit right with me. I felt like I would have preferred it much more if Molly had figured it out for herself, either throughout the movie or at the end, doesn't really matter, but I would have much preferred it if she had figured it out for herself than having someone who didn't really even know her that well at this point explain everything to her. Like, I don't know, like that just didn't really sit well with me. So after Googling everything to see how accurate the movie was, there was two tidbits that I found really interesting. One was the fact that Player X was actually based off Tobey Maguire. This was something that I did not know, and apparently everyone else did, but I found it really interesting and fascinating that this was, you know, that he was based off Tobey. But that was just interesting for me. So the second tidbit that I found interesting was why Molly got this movie made. Apparently her mother and some of her friends and family, or people that she knew, had paid off her debt and loans, so she was trying to pay them back using her memoir as well as this movie. So she actually went to the director Aaron to really convince him to turn her memoir into a film. So I don't know, that shows a lot of tenacity for me, which also goes to show that end of the day, her character in the book and her character in real life and her character in the movie, they're all very tenacious, and they're go-getters, you know, which is something I definitely admire. So overall, fantastic film. I really enjoyed the movie in general. Also, I loved Molly's character as well as Idris' character, even though he's completely fictional, but I think he played a really major role in this movie, and I definitely commend him for that. And at the end of the day, out of the two movies, it's obviously at this point pretty clear as to which movie is my favorite. Molly's Game, in case you haven't gotten that yet. They're both fantastic movies, but Molly's Game definitely sits better with me. I liked it more. I also liked the way how it was filmed. It was not filmed in the interview style / The Office version like Tonya was. It was filmed more like flashbacks, which is much better for me, at least in terms of a movie, and I like that style of filming a lot more. And the one thing that I learned after watching both movies is that despite your class, Tonya Harding called herself in the movie as a redneck, so I'll go with that class, versus these high-class poker players, which comprises of celebrities, billionaires, hedge fund managers, etc. That despite these class differences, at the end of the day, no matter who you are, things can come crashing down, which it did for both parties. So I don't know, and overall, great movies, recommend them both in their various ways. I personally like Molly's Game better, and I would recommend that more, but honestly, they both have their pros and cons to it, and yeah. So overall, that's all I have to say in terms of my compare and contrast with I, Tonya versus Molly's Game. Please do let me know in the comments below which movie you prefer, or if you haven't even watched either movie, which movie you will want to watch first, or neither of them. Completely up to you, but do let me know in the comments below. I'm curious to see everyone's thoughts. And also, as always, if you like this video, please do give me a thumbs up and subscribe down below, and don't forget to follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. But that's it for today, guys. Thank you. Bye.